What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Bluff. I'm your host, Christian Fowler. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Gabe Kuhn. Gabe, what's up, brother?
What's the word, brother? It looks like I'm dealing with a little bit of a lag tonight. So for those that are watching via video, I think my voice is going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to keep up. But whoever is watching the video, I apologize. We're just dealing with some technical difficulties.
It's not even technical difficulties. It's the fact that you won't get a Mac computer.
Well, what, man? I have like a brand new Dell. Like, it should not be this big of a deal. Or no, do I have a Dell or an HP? Whatever. I have one of the touchscreen. I have a Samsung. One of the touchscreen deals.
Yeah, the camera quality is just, it's not the same.
Okay, whatever, man. You have like a brand new Mac? Like, what do you got? You got a MacBook Pro? What do you got?
I've got an Air. I think I got it like last March.
And I've been meaning to ask you this. Do you have a ring light?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. So you do your makeup tutorials once we get off this?
Yes, I do. My TikTok channel is all makeup and stuff like that. So that's what the ring light's for.
Rock on, dude. No. So how was your weekend, man? Good?
It was good. And just to go back for a second, I don't even know when this ring light came into play. I don't remember purchasing it. I don't know if it was purchased for me. I have no idea, to be honest. But anyway, check out my makeup TikTok if you want to see it in use. Weekend was good. It was full of graduation. Anna Ruth graduated honors college on Thursday night, so I was down there Thursday night for that.
Congrats to Anna Ruth.
Yep, congrats to her for everything. It was a big weekend for her family. Friday night, her sister graduated from grad school, so I met them down there for dinner after graduation on Friday night. And then Saturday was Anna Ruth's actual graduation. So a lot of graduations this weekend. And then Sunday, obviously Mother's Day, spent time with my family. And then they had a Mother's Day / graduation party at Anna Ruth's parents' house last night. So it was a busy weekend, but it was a fun weekend. Obviously, celebrating her, celebrating the women in our life is always a lot of fun. So it was a busy weekend, a lot of back and forth, a lot of spending time at graduations and everything that comes with that. But it's fun. It's good celebrating people and not being the center of attention if you're me. So
that's awesome. You're never going to guess what I had to do this weekend, or not what I had to do. I had a good time, but
I already saw it on Facebook. You had a wedding this weekend.
Yeah. Good God, man. And then, I want to be the guy that's like, I'm going to be off weddings for a while. No, next month I have 2 cousins' weddings to attend. Then after that, I'm supposed to go to Italy, like I've told you before. But you ever been out to Mallards Croft? It's right there in Mississippi, as you cross in.
Yeah, it's not far from me. I've been there, I think, for 1 wedding.
I've been there for 2 weddings. Fun venue, man. Yeah, really fun venue.
And I think it's one of those, and I don't know if who was it that got married? Just a friend.
Evan Michael. For those that don't remember, he was the old holder. He was a backup punter and holder when I was back 13 to 17 when I played.
Yeah, it's. I think it's one of those venues where you can have the whole wedding party stay the weekend if you choose to.
I got to see what the groom's quarters looked like, and the because Taylor was in the wedding.
Yeah,
and I saw the bride's quarters. Quite ridiculous, to be honest with you. Like, those are nice houses that they have them stay up in.
Yeah.
My gosh.
I'm trying to think. Well, was it indoor or outdoor? Because that's a venue where you can do
indoor.
Indoor. Yeah. And it's cool in there. The big glass windows and everything.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Was that it for your weekend?
That was literally it. I had the rehearsal dinner and then the wedding on Saturday. And then Sunday, sat around the house. That's about it. Oh no! Well, we had Mother's Day. Taylor's mom, my mother-in-law, came over, and my brother-in-law came over as well. And Taylor cooked up some seafood risotto. Good stuff, man. It's like her specialty. Fire.
You did not cook.
I cut the bread and rubbed some garlic butter on the bread, and I made some garlic bread for the people. But that was the extent of my cooking.
I know.
If you listen, I can cook.
Yeah.
But Taylor's too damn good of a cook for me
So
to
what's the
really
point?
rationalize cooking all the time. I'll cook steaks, burgers, brats, hot dogs. Like I'll do the grilling,
Yeah.
but everything else, she's just too damn good of a cook.
And that's fair. Like, know your role. If your role's the griller, then be the griller. If she's that good in the kitchen, then stay out of it whenever
She
you
has
can.
gotten freakishly good in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That's why I can't lose a pound. In that, and I don't go to the gym. But
But
I blame her too. I blame her for the damn good cooking that I get every night.
it's better than eating fast food every night.
That may happen occasionally for me too. I mean, I may or may not do that, dude.
Yeah.
Who knows?
She does. Does she work nights or no?
No, she stepped back from the bedside nursing and she's doing aesthetics.
All
Some aesthetics
aesthetics.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not all aesthetics, but she'll pick up a couple of nursing shifts because she's PRN as needed.
Yeah.
But then she does a lot of work at the aesthetics place now.
Yeah. No, I see her post on that.
901aesthetics.com. Check it out.
Woo.
They have, you should have got in for Mother's Day if you're a man out there trying to take care of your lady, but go to Taylor at 901 Aesthetics. 901aesthetics.com.
What a plug. What a plug.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, I do a lot. All right, Gabe. So jumping into Memphis news, where do you want to start with this one? Because we got news on both sides, good news on both sides that we can talk about. Where are we starting?
I think we want to start on the basketball side because it came first.
Sure.
Yeah, Moussa Cisse commits to the University of Memphis. And I know there were people that were cold on the idea because whether it's loyalty or you don't think he's that good of a player and he can't catch the ball, whatever it is, you've been turned off by him as a basketball player. But I'll say this, I think it was a great addition. I think it makes a whole lot of sense for this team going forward. And I'll add more to it. I want to hear your opinion, but one of the biggest things that I notice about the way this front court's being built, and one thing I appreciate about it, is no one guy has the same skill set. And what I mean by that is, I know he said Nick Jourdain and he wants him to play out of the perimeter a little bit more. So let's just talk about, start with Tyreek Smith. Rim running fool, 15 to 20 minutes a game, really good on the defensive end, energy guy in the front court. Then you have Moussa Cisse, who is going to rim. He can run rim to rim, but he's not an offensively inclined guy. He is your textbook rim protecting big, and you need a guy like that for Penny's system, especially what he does on the defensive end. And then you have Dane Danger, who is the offensively inclined big. So you have all these bigs with completely different skills. So you're more multiple in what you can run out there game to game, minute to minute, half to half.
Yeah, and I think it's I'm with you. Like this isn't an earth-shattering move, but it coincides with what this staff is doing throughout the offseason, which is a lot of solid additions that fit. And we'll continue saying that throughout the offseason, is that what they've added so far fits, makes sense, and works for what Penny wants to do. And I completely agree in the front court. No, there's not a splashy addition that you say, okay, this guy is going to average 15 points per game. Every night you get 15 points per game from him. That's not the case, but you're so multiple in the front court now. You have so many different skill sets, and I think you laid it out perfectly. You have your athletic, get up and down the floor, both defensively and offensively inclined in Tyreek Smith. You have your pure defensive rim protector, shot blocker in Moussa Cisse, and then your most skilled overall offensive big is Dane Danger. And it works. They fit together. They don't clash in styles. You don't really have to look at those three specifically and say, how does this person fit on the floor with this person? Like they all can mesh well together, and that gelling and that chemistry and that meshing is what this team missed so much last year. Just continuity on the floor with different guys in different lineups. You know, whether they're starting or coming off the bench. On how do you fit all these puzzle pieces together? And I think last year you just couldn't. There wasn't a way to fit those pieces together. And what we've seen this offseason, I think, is a lot of puzzle pieces that do fit together. They go together, they mesh together, and you can see the vision beforehand of how this lays out. From 1 to 5, really, at this point. And 3 is kind of questionable. You mentioned Nick Jourdain playing more on the perimeter, maybe more at the 3, and we'll see exactly where they go with that position, but just, Tyrese Hunter at the 1, PJ Haggerty at the 2. Um, either one of those 3 guys in the starting lineup in the front court. Like it all makes sense. It all goes together. And I
Yep.
think that's going to pay dividends in the long run for this team because they need that, especially after last year.
Yeah, and for those of you that wonder about Moussa and what he brings to the floor, I want to remind you of a couple of things. One, the last time the Tigers finished first in adjusted defense, according to KenPom, was Moussa Cisse's freshman year. And oh, by the way, he won freshman and newcomer of the year in the AAC that year. Then that next year, he goes into Oklahoma State, into the Big 12, a really good basketball conference with a lot of good talent, and he won Defensive Player of the Year of the Big 12.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you may, question Moussa at this point, but you do need to remind yourself what his role is and how well he plays it. He plays it at a very, very elite level. Now, he's not a guy on offense that you're going to get excited by. I still don't think he catches the ball very well, which was the big issue with him the first time around at Memphis. But when we talk about a defensive big, it's about as good as you can do, especially at this point in the game if you're Penny Hardaway and Rick Stansbury.
Yeah, I think if you have realistic expectations for what he is and what he brings, then you're not going to be disappointed in that. Like
Right.
if you look at him and you say, okay, we're going to get block shots out of him. He is going to be an enforcer on the defensive end as far as protecting the rim. And he can rebound at least decently well. Scoring, don't have that expectation. If you have unrealistic expectations of him, then you're going to be disappointed. But if you look at him for what he is, take him for what he is, and then also, and I think this is interesting, pair that with Tyreek Smith, who was top 15 in the country last year in blocks at 1.7 blocks per game, then you're starting to see that, this game that is really transitioning away from the paint and more to the perimeter. You're seeing a team and a staff in Memphis that are saying, no, we're going to establish ourselves down low, at least on the defensive end. You have so many ways offensively, I think, with what they've put together on how you can attack teams. But defensively, they're saying good luck coming down low. With those 2 guys who are both elite level rim protectors and shot blockers, they're daring teams to come at them, which there have been times in the past where teams have been able to come directly downhill at Memphis and hurt Memphis in that way. And Penny is saying no more. That's not going to happen this year. If you come down low, you're going to have to deal with 2 of the best shot blockers in the country.
Yeah, and here's the other part of why I like Moussa this time around a whole lot better is the expectations for him coming out of high school were 5-star, top 3 center in the country. Oh, he can even grow an offensive game. Right. You have to give him preferential treatment. He's coming in to be a starter. This time around, it's like he's coming off his worst season in a college uniform last year in Ole Miss, and he still has his ability to play defense. Like, he's not coming in here. No one's coming in here. He's not coming in here expecting to be some starter that plays 25, 30 minutes a game. No. He can play a role, and he can play that role really well in shorter minutes, and that's why I enjoy it a whole lot more, because you've removed that 5-star next coming expectation from Moussa Cisse in year 5 in college.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. That pretty much wraps it up on the basketball front. Quickly, let's transition to football, because we've been applauding this. Going to continue to applaud what Ryan Silverfield and the staff are doing in the transfer portal. They added a huge addition in former Tennessee linebacker Elijah Herring, who it seems to be might have seen the writing on the wall at Tennessee with Keenan Peely coming back from an injury last year, and the path to playing time just didn't seem to be there for him. It was like a low rotational role at best, and I don't think that really speaks about him. I think that speaks about, Keenan Peely, Arian Carter, who was a former Memphis commit also at Tennessee, Jeremiah T-Lander, a couple other guys that they've got there that have impressed throughout the spring, and Elijah Herring could have potentially been the odd man out. But I don't think it says anything about his talent. If you look at his transfer ranking, he's a high 3-star, borderline 4-star transfer on 247 Sports, had a lot of Power 5 schools interested in him. So this is not just a player that's coming from, a high Power 5 SEC school, and you're saying, well, maybe there was potential once, but there's just not much on paper. He led Tennessee in tackles last year, and he has the ability to be even better at Memphis. When you drop down a level in competition, production is probably going to go up, and especially when you pair him with Chandler Martin. Like, you look at this linebacking core, and that's not even talking about the other additions that they've made in the transfer portal. Just those two guys, and Elijah Herring and Chandler Martin. I think you have two guys that are not even really arguably in the top 5 for best defensive players in the conference. It just in your linebacking core.
You have the best linebacking core in the conference by a pretty landslide amount.
Bar none.
And then you have your defensive coordinator and Jordan Hankins, who coaches linebackers, who is really good working with those linebackers. It just all came together really well for this linebacking core. I'll say this about Elijah Herring. I don't give a damn what you thought about him. Keenan Peely, and he started 11 games because of injury, and he still led Tennessee with tackles. And you'd say, okay, well, he wasn't going to get as much playing time, whatever. In the end of the day, look at who else was recruiting him. It's that simple. You mentioned the Power 5 schools, but I'll name a couple by name that I think are pretty standout to me. Colorado and Miami were in the running. He took a visit to Colorado, which usually that works out well for some of these guys that want to be those high-profile names. You land with Prime, you become a high-profile name. But Miami as well. Look at their NIL funds and how much money they pour into that. What is it, Life Wallet or whatever? I know that the guy got in trouble, but they still have a bunch of money running through that football program, and Mario Cristobal has always been a hell of a recruiter. Just look at the fights that they're involved in now. And what this points me to is the fact that, man, you can try and paint it some other way, but the influx of money given by Fred Smith and that FedEx NIL fund means something pretty substantially. And I'll even go back to Chris Adams, who likely will be starting along that offensive line next year from Old Dominion, started 13 games at Old Dominion. They were in a fight with Washington, and he had decommitted from Washington 6 days before he ended up committing to Memphis. And Washington was in the damn national championship last year. So this influx of money, the positive momentum under this program with Ryan, this is working in the correct direction. And I was excited as hell to see Elijah Herring, because that's a guy that 2 years ago probably ends up at Miami or Colorado in this particular situation. But the days have changed. Yeah. So impressive as hell.
It's big for them, no doubt. And then just overarching, looking at what they've done in the transfer portal, just pulling a few names, Elijah Herring being near the top of that list. But then you also have Taj Rael, also from Old Dominion, borderline 4-star, and Mario Anderson, who has kind of been like the headliner of this class the entire time. Those are 3 borderline 4-star transfers. Those are high-level transfers that Power 5 schools were in on. And that's not even dipping into these other guys that were on lists for Power 5 schools, because there's multiple other players that Memphis was able to land in the transfer portal that were being courted by high-level schools. But those 3 in general are just not players that Memphis would have been able to get in the past. I know they got Mario Anderson early, and you can make an argument there. They got Taj Rael relatively early, but they don't put together a recruiting class like this or a transfer portal class like this any other year. And they're continuing to make these additions in real time. And I think they're top 50 or top 45 right now in the transfer portal rankings. And that's huge, because yes, high school recruiting rankings mean one thing, but you look at the transfer portal rankings and you can kind of see who's going to be successful this upcoming season, because you're getting, in most of those situations, you're getting high level impact players.
Yeah, but we're not. It's just funny to me, because when you see transfer portal news with basketball, it's oh, I know what I'm getting. That's that's the big name guys, and usually the big name guys in football are reserved for the Miamis and the Alabamas and the Clemson has, that's a bad example because they don't even have a transfer portal recruit this entire class. They're the only power conference who doesn't. But the big schools, Georgia's, right? Those are where you see all these impact transfers go. To turn around and to really be able to talk about transfer portal recruits for Memphis football making immediate impacts, and Chris Adams and Taj Rael and Mario Anderson and Elijah Herring, like that's just different. That's an escape from what always has been the case since the transfer portal became as popular as it did, whatever, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, and you look at some of these position groups, specifically the secondary and the offensive line, majority of those two units will be made up of transfers from this class,
Yep.
I believe. I don't really think you can argue that too much. And that's just not like Memphis obviously has gotten transfers over the last couple of years, so it's nothing in that sense. But to be able to completely remake your roster, or revamp your roster, or improve your roster, however you want to put it, like they've been able to do that in this transfer class, and they've really set themselves apart from the rest of the conference. Because yes, Tulane's had success also, but there's so many more question marks surrounding other schools in the conference not named Memphis, because they have, first of all, they have continuity, and that just happens with cycles. You get lucky in some cycles and you have a lot of continuity, and they have that at some of their most important positions. But they've also been able to get guys that are going to contribute right away and be near the top of the conference at their position group. Mario Anderson's going to be one of the best running backs in the AAC this year. Elijah Herring's going to be one of the best linebackers in the AAC this year. Like there's no way to argue that. These are guys that were productive in the SEC at a high level, not just playing rotationally. Like Elijah Herring led Tennessee in tackles.
Starters,
Mario Anderson was really, really good at South Carolina last year. You can, and I know we don't want to talk about the conference is worse. Well, the conference is worse. We know that. There's a reason it's not a Power 5 conference. And so if you're successful at a higher level and you're dropping down, if your work ethic continues to be the same, if you're continuing, to strive in the weight room and the film room, and you're trying to improve, and it's not just, I guess I got to drop down a level, which I don't think that's the mentality of these guys, you're going to be more productive because you're playing against worse players. It just makes sense.
Yeah. Now, I do want to revisit this just real quick, talking about that linebacker room with Elijah Herring added. I just want to let's sort of think tank through this really quick. Elijah Herring led Tennessee in tackles last year.
Yep.
He's one of them. Chandler Martin was first team All AAC, probably the best player, damn near the best defensive player in the conference last year. I mean, pretty close.
Yeah.
He's coming back. So you have two there. Matt Hudson from Harvard was a transfer. He was second team All Ivy League, and he had 63 tackles in less games than they play at the FBS level last year. And then you have Javonte Mackey, who almost gets forgot about in these conversations.
Yeah.
But don't forget about Javonte Mackey. The guy has 3 years of eligibility. He was a freshman last year. He had 84 tackles. I believe he led Arkansas State in tackles. And he's part of that linebacking core. Like, it is kind of nuts, the amalgam, like how much talent they have in that room now, and where they all got it from. It's just from all over the country.
And Jaden Flaker as well, who's a decently highly rated transfer guy from North Carolina Central. I think he's like a 85, 86 overall transfer ranking on 247. So that's another name in that linebacker room. Like this is a position that has went from a lot of uncertainty, and for the majority of at least the last 6-7 years, a relative weakness at the University of Memphis, to the biggest strength on this defense. And that's with, a lot of talented transfers in the secondary, a lot of talented guys on the defensive line. This linebacker core is really, really remarkable. Like, to be 5-6 deep at linebacker is not something that Memphis has had at least in the 5-6 years that I've been covering the team. And they certainly have that now. And it should be a lot of fun to watch, because we talked about, the defense being weak in certain areas, and having linebackers that can play the run and play in coverage and help out your secondary and your defensive line. I mean, the linebackers are really the glue that holds everything together defensively. And to be this good at that position and this versatile and athletic, this is a luxury that Memphis has not had.
Now I want to run something by you. One of my good friends over at CBS Sports, David Cobb. I bring him on the show every once in a while, but he posted his Group of 5 football rankings before we get into the season, and I definitely wanted to go through the top 3. Top one is Boise State with Malachi Nelson coming in, Ashton Jeanty at running back still. Boise State has sort of had a perch up there for the last, 25 years, damn near. Like it feels like they have been at the top of the group of five or the non-power teams for a long time. Then he has Liberty with Caden Salter coming back. And then at 3, he has Memphis. What do you think about that particular rating? And do you think, obviously, I think it's pretty close there at the top. Like, it's sort of a crapshoot. I think it's wide open at the group of 5 level. But Memphis at 3, too low, too high, just right.
I think I agree with you in the fact that those 3 teams you can really put in any order, and I don't think you're going to get too much argument from it because you can see a path to all of those group of 5 teams getting that potential playoff shot because they're all, especially at the quarterback position. You mentioned Malachi Nelson, Caden Salter, Seth Hennigan, and I think that's a big reason why those are the top 3 teams. And then it becomes, you pretty much know those guys are going to play well. How does the supporting cast look around them? Liberty, obviously, a little bit in flux. I know they did lose some transfers there. Boise State's still really solid in majority of areas. And then Memphis, I would say, at least from last year, is probably the overall most improved team out of those 3 on paper, just from the transfer portal.
And one of the other big things is outside of South Florida in the AAC, this was one of the biggest things that David talked about when he was doing his write-up for Memphis. Outside of South Florida, Memphis is second in the ESPN metric of returning production.
Yeah.
So they just bring back so much on the offensive side of the ball that it's just hard to deny them. Rock Taylor, Demir, Kobe Drake, Anthony Lanfear at the tight end position. Obviously, you're not going to have, you're going to have a new running back, but you still have Sutton and a really good guy in Mario Anderson Jr., but then Seth Hennigan bringing that all together. It's just, I have always talked about if this team, and this has been sort of copy and paste since 2014, right? And I know I'm going to go a little bit off of the beaten path of this conversation. But since about 2014, I have always said, even when I was playing there, if our defense can just get into top 4, top 5 in this conference, with the offensive firepower that has just sustained since 2014, you can go into a different stratosphere as a football program. If this defense can hold up its end of the bargain this year, I'm telling you, I don't see any reason not to have them at number 1 in these rankings, as long as that defense can hold it up. But I know we've had high hopes a few years along the way, and it hasn't really come to fruition. But this year looks a little bit different. It looks a little bit different. And it's kind of funny, just let's use the historical significance here. Adam Fuller, probably the best defensive coordinator they had, and probably the best defense they had was in 2019. And what did they do that year? Went to the Cotton Bowl. Yeah. It's not that hard to understand. If this team can just be a top half of the AAC defense, they can get to heights this program's never seen. And I'm talking college football playoff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely fair. But the question remains is it going to be there? It should, on paper, and we've said this before in years past, on paper.
No, we said it last year. We were saying, defense might outpace the offense, and it looked good for a couple of weeks against bad competition. Then it just went to complete shit.
Yeah, and I think once again this year, it's more than likely going to fall on the secondary because teams knew that's how you attack Memphis is through the air. Memphis, even over the last several years, has been relatively a good run defense, but the secondary, dating back to your time in here, dating back to 2014, like you're talking about, the secondary has not been good any of those years that I can recall. Maybe one year they were decent, but overall they just have not had good secondary play at all. You had TJ Carter's tremendous freshman season, and then he
sort of fell off,
and he wasn't the same player. Yeah. And so they just have not had any consistency
since my freshman year, since 2014. 2014 was the best defense we had, but our offense wasn't quite along with Paxton and everybody, pulling in the right direction. But it's just been strange why the secondary has sort of faltered since that year. One thing that does give me more confidence heading into this season, though, outside the talent and the players, because that can even if you have good talent, if they're not put in the right position, it doesn't matter at all.
Right.
I think that the staff gives me more confidence than in
Yeah.
the past. I like Jordan Hankins. Think he's really good, did a good job with the linebackers. But then you brought in Spence Nowinski, who was, the leader of the Ohio defense, was number 1 in the group of 5. So I'm hoping all of that amounts to potentially a top half defense in the AAC, because that's all they need to really get where they want to go.
Yeah, and it's just looking at it and looking at Taj Rail, as we've talked about multiple times, very high-level transfer. A.J. Watts from Louisiana Monroe, another solidly ranked transfer. And then Jaden Dennis as well from Eli.
Yeah, that was over the weekend. Jaden Dennis, right?
No. That was Javon Dennis. That was the defensive
Dennis.
lineman.
there's different Dennises. We have
there's different
Dennises. There we go.
But they have pieces. Like, they have talented guys. And as you mentioned, they have a coaching staff that we can at least be cautiously optimistic about. There's not too much of a proven track record, at least here in the positions that they're in. But on paper, the coaching staff looks good. And talent-wise, you really look good pretty much everywhere. If it's going to come together, this would be the year. Now, have we made statements before about the defense? Yes, but if it's going to come together, it just feels like this would be the time.
Now, real quick, just for those fans that want to know about David Cobb's these CBS Sports rankings for the Group of 5. Just moving down, I'm just going to do the AAC teams that he has in his top 10. He had Tulane at 5, which should be interesting. UTSA at 6, and then South Florida at 9. And I've been trying to tell people South Florida's the big dark horse here.
They are.
For the entire Group of 5, because Alex Golish has it going in the right direction. And we saw that offense looks pretty damn good. But just wanted to round that out before we get to the hot 3.
All right, cool. Well, let's take a quick break. And on the other side, Kenny will jump in with us, and we will get into the hot 3.
The old dudes are getting up out of here too. The LeBrons are starting to look old. Steph Curry looking old. Kevin Durant, first time ever. Neither one of those 3 guys are in the second round of the playoffs, right?
I absolutely welcome the ushering out of the old heads. Like I have this extreme like LeBron fatigue. Like I don't like the way that he's covered by the media, and it makes me tend to not like him. And it's not even his fault.
Yeah,
it was never his fault. And so moving forward with the new faces of the league, like your Ja Morants and your Luka Doncic's and Anthony Edwards could be part of that conversation. But does the league want to like put him on? Because they're gonna market whoever they want to market, right? And I feel like he's very marketable, but for some reason it seems like the league not leaning into it.
Because they know it's a clown. They know it's a clown inside.
He gonna say whatever,
out, right?
He gonna say whatever.
From Ja Morant, you better vet these dudes toughly. And the dude who's coming to in-bombs and eating Popeyes on screen and
he on the Bally's mic, bro. The mic is hot, bro. We heard what you just said.
They know a clown is in there, man.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
When I saw that Michael Cole put out a story of Adam Silver continuing his check-ins with Ja, I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Draymond Green is still kicking dudes in the nards and throwing spinning back fists in the middle of games. And for some reason, Ja Morant still needs a check-in. He's yet to hurt anybody. He's taking the right steps. Shut the hell up, dude. Like, what are we doing? It is such posturing. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and it's gross. It was steep, and he was trying to make an example of him, and we didn't think he'd be able to stick to that. Lo and behold, by damn, he hasn't. Miles Bridges in the league. Draymond had an indefinite suspension away from, I don't even think it was actual suspension. You knew exactly what button to push because I saw the article come out and I was like, what a cuck. It's unbelievable.
Adam Silver, the cuck.
Come hang out with Daniel Greer and Nathan Qualls on Grizz 901 Live. Every Tuesday night at 901 live on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. What up, boys?
Hey.
It's time. Hold on, let me fix this. What is going on?
Fix it.
There we go.
There it is.
Yeah, you know.
Dude. I still have to get used to this whole thing. It's crazy, man. But hey, I wanted to ask you, and we got a lot to talk about with the Hot 3, but I wanted to ask both of you. Gabe, I've heard you talk about it on your show last week. but I wanted to get Christian's thoughts as well. You mentioned Boise State in the previous segment about them being about your boy David Cobb ranking them number 1 in the
Group of 5 football
Group
poll.
of 5, football poll. What did you think about the head coach's statements about NIL?
I think it was moronic. It was so stupid. Did you hear this whole thing, Christian?
I didn't.
This idiot had the nerve to say, and I shouldn't call him an idiot. He was decent down the stretch of the season for them as a coach, and he was the interim and he got the full-time job, so he's probably not bad at coaching. But he said that he doesn't want freshmen to earn NIL collective money. He is banning them from getting NIL collective money. Now, if a business wants to work with them, he can't step in the way of that. That would be illegal. But he said the collective money is going to be for redshirt freshmen and on. I'm like, that is just so. Why are you shooting yourself in the foot for the sake of it? Why?
Yeah, no, that makes no sense because you're telling freshmen don't come here.
And the other thing is Malachi Nelson's a redshirt freshman.
Exactly,
buddy. You paid his ass. I can
Yeah.
guarantee.
Absolutely.
Whether he's a 5-star coming from USC and Lincoln Riley, you paid the hell out of him.
Absolutely.
But he's a redshirt freshman, so I'm sure that's above board for him.
Yeah.
That's fine. Once you're a redshirt freshman, we'll give you that money.
Doesn't make much sense. Can't be on board with that.
Honestly, my first thought, though, my first reaction, Kenny was like, good for Memphis.
Yeah. So
Really?
hey, they might be
Great.
good this year, but next year they're going to be terrible. No, I thought that was interesting, man. I read an article that said something about that those kind of statements, those kind of comments are going to usher in the split of the P4 and G5 teams quicker, like that it's going to be a much quicker process. And I'm like, that might be some drama llama type of.
There's also
talk
been
there,
coaches in the past that literally say things that they didn't actually live up to.
Yeah,
Dabo Sweeney, everybody's favorite. Oh, once the players start earning money, I'm done. I'm no longer going to coach. Okay, buddy, then quit.
Then go ahead. All right, let's get to it, man. The hot 3. Here we go. We got a lot of things to talk about. Number 1 is starting off Grizzlies news. Just a lot going on in the Grizzlies world right now, and I wanted to get your thoughts on all of it. Obviously, yesterday, as of recording, we're recording on Monday night. Sunday afternoon was the NBA draft lottery, and I'm gonna be frank with you, man. Like, I couldn't care less. Like, I was just kind of like, whatever. But there was a lot of people that are creators on this platform. It was a hot topic of conversation. It was a lot of nerves involved in it, like where the Grizzlies going to be. And I think they might have literally got the worst pick possible that they could have, right? They ended up getting the 9th pick in the lottery. And so there's just been a lot of questions about, okay, what are the Grizzlies going to do with that 9th pick? I've seen names floated out. I've seen you got to trade it. You got to do this, that, and the third with it. What are y'all's thoughts on what the Grizzlies should do with this 9th pick?
Can I give an original, not so original thought that I've thought for like 5 years now of watching the NBA lottery since covering the Grizzlies?
Don't get me started on this. Don't get me started on this.
It fucking proves to me every year. Just send out a fucking email.
Just send an email.
It's not made for TV, dude. It is the least, and they just do it so fast. Like once they tell you who's picking where, it's just like 14-5 is immediate. Back to back to back. It's like just send out a damn email.
Yeah,
I'd rather watch the pregame show heading into the NBA playoffs than that.
And we get reminded every year how much, because they both happen around this time of the year, how much better NFL draft coverage and everything surrounding the draft is in the NBA.
Yes, 100%. And you know what's funny about this year's draft? Depending on who you look at in their big board, you could see every single person have a different name at number 1 on their big board.
Yeah.
It is insane. Like I saw John Hollinger, who used to work in the Grizzlies front office. Some people like him in Memphis, some people don't, whatever. He had Ron Holland at 1 on his damn big board. And he made a compelling case as to why that's the case, even though everybody's like, that seems dumb. It's like, well,
that doesn't seem right.
The draft is just so weird. And the Hawks end up with number 1, which is the least scary. It's not scary to me.
No, it's not a good draft at all. Really, it's not a good draft. And I think, to me, like the only interesting storyline that came out of it that could be something is that the Spurs got 2 top 10 picks.
Yes,
which-
because the Raptors pick conveyed to them because it was top 6 protected. That
Right.
I'm telling you, like right now, I don't even think next year they're going to be great, but keep them in your damn peripheral, man. They're in the Southwest Division. You play them 4 times a year if you're a Grizzlies fan or Grizzlies player. That team could get up fast, and they have a really good coach still in Pop. Now, Grizzlies at number 9. I'm going to be honest, Kenny, for you saying like that's the worst place they could have landed, like I think it's a little overblown, a little overstated, but I get what you mean. Like if you would have gotten the top 5, you have a lot more flexibility because people may try to trade up with you.
Right.
there.
Who's going
But,
to trade
like,
for the 9th pick in this
I
draft?
love when people are talking about, hey, we'll trade down. And I go,
For what?
okay. Yeah, that's exactly my
Exactly.
point. But there's already reports out there that they're going to try to find veteran help. And if they can facilitate a trade with somebody late in the first round or somebody else to go use that pick to get some veteran help, a big or whatever, I'm all for it. Like I'm totally there. But let's not act like in this year's draft the 9 pick makes a damn. No one is valuing that pick like a normal number 9 overall pick. I'm
No.
sorry.
No.
You can't act like they are either.
So if you hold the pick, what's best case scenario?
That's a good question.
Stephon Castle would be my best
Stephon
answer.
Castle, maybe is Dalton Connect going to be
Connect.
available?
Next interesting one. Here's my thing. I think Stephon Castle because in the NBA Combine today, he actually did really well with his 3-point shooting. So, believe it or not, which is maybe not the best part of his game, and it wasn't that great at UConn, but he can be streaky and he can knock it down every once in a while. But what I like about him is if you draft him, I have really good confidence that he can give you 10 to 15 minutes a game and be a really useful player because he's really good on the defensive end. He's about 6'5", play him at the 2 or 3, and he can get the ball on the ground. He can attack the rim. He's got a decent mid-range game. Like he has a game that I think translates better than the NBA than some of the other guys out there. And Don't Connect, I kind of like too. The one name that I am kind of scared of that a lot of people are not, in Grizzlies Twitter at least, is Ron Holland.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't
I'm
like
not a big-
Ron Holland's game. I would argue that Ron Holland may have one of the highest ceilings of anybody in this draft besides Alexander Sarr.
He was projected to be a number 1 overall pick.
Right. So like Ron Holland, I can get with you on his upside. But my problem with him is, isn't he just like almost copy and paste the same player as Gigi Jackson?
Yeah.
And it's like, who are you giving preferential treatment to? Gigi Jackson. Why would I start over with Ron Holland, or why would I have Ron Holland on this team when he's not going to be able to crack the rotation because I already have a Ron Holland at home?
I completely agree. I've had multiple behind the scenes conversations about this and be like, Ron Holland is not who you're looking for in this draft. You've already got Gigi Jackson. I said this last year. This year coming up is my rookie year for Gigi Jackson. All of last year was
he
just
would have been a top 5. He may have been the second pick in this damn year. If everything sort of held and he had a really good year, whatever. If he just sort of went to North Carolina, he could have been a top 3 to 5 pick in this year's draft.
Yeah. Y'all really said the 2 names that I was thinking, which was Stephon Castle and Dalton Connect, because for all the reasons that Gabe mentioned, Stephon Castle makes sense. And then if you're talking about trading the pick for veteran help and someone that can help now, Dalton Connect is made ready to be a pro right now. Due to his experience, age, scoring ability, like he's someone that can come in and be productive from day one. Now, he might not have the ceiling of a Ron Holland or a Robert Dillingham or an Alexander Sarr, but as far as someone who can come in and help you and give you meaningful minutes in year one, like Dalton Connect, Donovan Clingan, those are the 2 guys that are really at the top of that list.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like I look at Dalton Connect. If you do draft him, I'm fine with it. Like I would almost like that pick at number 9 if you really went for it. The one thing with that though is you are going to have to probably move on from Luke Kennard, who's got $14.7 million due to him on a player option. If you get a guy like Dalton Connect, if you lucked into a guy like Reed Shepherd, who like that 3-point ability, the guy who can stretch the floor, provide some 3-point shooting, you have to move off Luke Kennard in that big contract or that big money year next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, also on some Grizzlies news, we do have to mention this. Looks like the Athletic is reporting that the staff is going to be turned over by Taylor Jenkins. He's going to let go of several assistants and restructure the staff headed into the season.
How do we feel about it?
I mean, I don't know how you could look at it and feel like awesome, because I don't think you make wide sweeping changes to your leadership unless you feel like there needs to be wide sweeping changes to your leadership.
Unless the leadership was lacking, maybe.
Yeah, I'll look at it this way though. I'm not going to do because there's a lot of people that have been on Taylor Jenkins' case, and I have disagreed with it every step of the way, because it's like
wholeheartedly, right? Yeah.
I can't reasonably look at last year and draw any conclusions about anything. Maybe the first 25 games, 6-19, but they still had some injuries. John Morant was out. It's like I can't really, figure out what he actually is. But what it does signal to me is, if things don't go well this year, and they're not in a protected seed, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, he's on a warm seat, and if things go wrong, he'd get his ass fired. But it's not. I don't think when people say hot seat, I think that is way overstated.
Yeah,
because that means hot seat means, hey, I would fire him today, but let's give him a little bit more time.
Yeah,
and then change my opinion. I don't think they're thinking about firing him, but I think that their opinion could be changed to firing him if he performs badly. That's the difference.
Agree.
That's warm seat to me. Hot seat is the other way around, where I would fire him, but let's give him a little bit of time to see what he can do.
Yeah, a hot seat kind of says that it's imminent, right? Like it's basically a done deal, that it's going to happen more likely than not. And I don't think that's where they're at right now. My only thing with like widespread changes coming to the coaching staff is kind of the same thing that you brought up. In a year like last year, that was just totally basically from night one a lost year, or at least when John Morant got hurt. Maybe not from night one, but there was just never a good feeling about last year at all from the time the suspension was handed down. How much can you really learn and judge off of that? Like it's just a tough thing. Now, obviously, they felt like changes needed to be made, and that there's reason for that. But it just kind of feels like the same sentiment that in a year like last year, how can you really make widespread changes after last year was pretty much null and void?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about, hey, it's going to be a lot more pressurized next year. Rise up, or we could be thinking about moving on from you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think that's how these NBA things work. Because let's be honest, like Taylor Jenkins has held this job for how many years at this point? Going on year number 5 or 6?
Yeah.
So like he's probably one of the more tenured coaches at their particular spot in the damn NBA. He's had a few cracks at this thing. But I don't even the last year, if you date it back to when they got knocked out by the Lakers in the playoffs, that was John Morant broken hand and no Steven Adams.
No Brandon Clark.
Last 2 years have just been really tough for Taylor Jenkins to manage. And I don't think that's any fault of his own. I think it has to do with everything moving around him and all the injuries.
Yeah. Not only hard to manage, but also just hard to get a read on and hard to get a judgment from, is because there's just been so much going on behind the scenes and just around the team in general.
And I want to give him credit for this year. Held basically a top 10 defense with 33 different players playing.
Yeah.
I can't hate on him too much for that.
Yeah.
But we'll see how this year goes. It's going to be more pressurized. That's why they're making these changes, to get everything right going into next season.
Is that it as far as Grizzlies?
Yeah, so I just read something on our Discord that I wanted to bring to your guys' attention, to see if this changes any of the conversation we just had. Some combine stuff has been coming out today, and we kind of need to add a hot 3+1, because we were going to talk about the combine a little bit in the first segment. We forgot to do it, so we're going to talk about the combine in 1 second. But some measurements came out today, and I wanted to see if this changed your mind. So Stephon Castle was listed at 6'6" at UConn. Do you know what his true measurement is?
Don't be careful with that one, because the first height that was listed was wrong. The 6'2.5" is incorrect.
What is he?
He's 6'5.5". So he was right there around 6'6".
Oh, so I'm reading. So the tweet that I'm seeing is wrong.
That one was original. That was changed after that. So he's 6'5.5". So
he is actually, because I was going to ask you, does it change your opinion of Stephon Castle if he's actually 6'2" and not 6'2"?
If he was 6'2", yes, but he's 6'5.5". So.
But he's 6'5.5". Okay,
yeah,
so
I don't feel much differently about Stephon Castle.
Thank you for correcting me on that. Let's get to David Jones and Naquan Tomlin for a second. They Naquan Tomlin has been invited to the combine after some really, really good performances in the G League camp that they had. He got invited to come over. David Jones was invited about a month ago, maybe. I think he was invited. David Jones was listed at 6'6" at Memphis, and he was measured at 6'3.5" with a 6'7" wingspan. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second.
That's fucking bad for him. That's really bad for him.
That's really bad, right? Like
that's come back to Memphis bad. That's like, I don't know. Like, they saw that measurement and they're like, "You're a 3."
Right.
There's no chance I can do that with you. There's no chance. Did Naquan get his height?
I haven't seen Naquan's height.
Think they've done it
I haven't
yet.
seen his height, but he's listed at 6'10".
Yeah. Even if he's like 6'8",
right?
That's perfect. That's fine for him.
Yeah.
So we asked the question before we got started in our pre-show meeting. We asked the question, and I wanted to ask both of you guys this question on air. Let's get it on wax. Let's get it on paper. Who's a better NBA prospect, Naquan Tomlin or David Jones?
Naquan clears easy.
I think Naquan by a pretty large margin. And I've always thought that. And I do think if he would have just played the whole year with Memphis and the K-State stuff never happened, he would have gotten an NBA Combine invite just like David did. But it is kind of strange to see David easily get the NBA Combine invite and Naquan have to work for it. But Naquan brings everything, like modern-day big, a guy who can play sort of 3, 4, or 5.
Yeah.
He can put the ball on the ground pretty well for his size. He can shoot. I think he needs to be a better rebounder, like more plus rebounder, but he had spike games where he had double-digit rebounds. So Naquan by a pretty large margin. I want to hear Kenny's take on this, though. Come on, Kenny.
I think there is a premium in the NBA on shot-making ability, being able to create your own shot. And David Jones has that in spades. He can create a shot pretty well. I think in terms of like size and in terms of skill set, Naquan is what you would look at and go, that is an NBA stretch big or an NBA jumbo wing, right? Like you saw what Naquan did when he started at the 3 at Memphis. It is more difficult, I think, and this is just my opinion, I think it's more difficult to play at the size that Naquan is to play the wing in college than it would be for him to play the wing in the NBA because of the way the rules and all that. And so, but you saw what Naquan did when he had the ball, on the wing when he started at the 3. I think was probably his most effective game at Memphis when he started at the 3. And so, I think if you're looking at just intangibles and measurements and look and game, you go, man, Naquan is that dude, right? Like he's 6'10". Even if he's 6'8", he's still that guy that can do what he does. But there's a premium on shot makers and shot creators, and that's what David is. So I do think, I'll be frank with you, man. Like I do think, and this has nothing to do with David Jones and his skill set, but that size and wingspan measurement is a monster deal for David Jones. That's a tough thing to come back from.
And also, here's the other thing about Naquan to his side. For his side on this whole thing, energy and defense as well. Yep. That's what helps you stick as a undrafted free agent, and I think Naquan has a boatload more in that regard right now than David Jones.
Agreed. All right, Kenny, let's move it on.
Let's get to it. Let's get to the NBA playoffs. Right now, it is Monday night. Right now, the Celtics and Cavaliers are playing. Celtics are up by 7. Cavaliers are playing without Donovan Mitchell. Boston leads this series 2-1. Thunder and Mavericks will be playing tonight as well. Dallas leads that series 2-1. Are y'all surprised at all by Dallas leading that series 2-1?
Yes.
Like it
really?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm surprised at how they got there. I'm not surprised that they are, though, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's not like this crazy can't believe it Cinderella story thing, but I'm the Thunder, even though they aren't, a big market team or anything like that, and they don't have someone with as much name value as Luka and Kyrie, even though SGA is clearly like racing
second in the MVP race. I mean,
right, but just like name value, if you went and asked your casual fan like Luka, Kyrie, they know SGA obviously becoming more and more prevalent as the years go on. The Thunder are just a more well-rounded team on paper with what they have. And so I was high on the Thunder. I'm high on SGA. What they have in Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, they're a very well-rounded team overall. So I thought this was a series that they would be the team up 2-1. I thought this was a series they would probably win in 6, honestly.
My biggest issue with that going into the series is the Thunder have not had any cracks at this. Is the hunted, and then also fair. The Mavs have been in a Western Conference Finals, and the Thunder, as dominant as they were against the Pelicans might have been, without Zion, the worst playoff team I've seen in the past. They were horrible, really bad. And the Pelicans never even tried to punch them in the mouth. I figured that we'd get to a moment in this series, whether it was the Mavs or the Clippers who was going to play them, and it ended up being the Mavs. I figured Thunder are going to get punched directly in the mouth, and how are they going to respond? And you see Chet Holmgren really struggling with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford, who have been great for them this year.
Dude, I love Derek Lively so. I love his game so much, man.
You see, they're shorter and stockier builds, and Chet Holmgren's this long, lanky guy. They're getting into his chest and really trying to batter him around. Luka, I know the knee injury was there, but he doesn't require a whole bunch of athleticism to do what he does. He's just a very, very crafty guy. I think the two biggest surprises, though, as to why they got to 2-1.
PJ Washington.
PJ Washington, 29 and 27 in back-to-back games. And then also, in Game 2, the first one the Mavs had, Kyrie swung that game and only had 9 points.
Yeah.
Dude.
What I mean by that is he was the best. I've never seen this from him. Maybe his Cavs days, a couple of games in the playoffs. He was the best defender on the floor that night. And I couldn't believe my eyes. He was, the Thunder against him were 1 for 9 from the field and 0 for 3 from 3. They could not score on him. And he only had 9 freaking points. And then he had 11 assists to 2 turnovers. He just picked up the pieces, doing the dirty work while PJ Washington was going off for 29. And I was just impressed as hell that happened. And I never saw that coming.
Yeah, Gabe, you talked about getting punched in the mouth and how you respond to that. Two teams got punched in the mouth hard, and the Pacers and the Denver Nuggets.
Or the Knicks and the Nuggets over the weekend. Knicks and the Nuggets. The Knicks.
No, Knicks. Sorry. Knicks and the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Both going down 2-0 in the way that they've come back.
Oh, you meant the Pacers. I was wrong.
You were right.
Yeah, that's what
the Knicks went up 2-0 on the
Pacers.
Knicks went up, and then the
yesterday. So the Pacers
those two series on crack, bro.
Yeah.
Pacers go down 0-2. Nuggets go down 0-2. Especially with the Nuggets, the way the Wolves were playing, losing both games at home. You're thinking, oh my God, the champs are about to get put out, and they might only get one. And then they come back and they win both in Minnesota.
Anything you can do, I can do better.
Man, that's impressive.
Can I ask y'all a question? I was having a conversation about this today. Is it not wild to you that Minnesota's defense looked the best it's looked in this entire playoffs? In the one game, they didn't have the defensive player of the year.
That's so crazy, man. I don't get it. It's an interesting damn point.
Yeah.
And I have had my had my run-ins with being negative about Rudy Gobert in the past, but I'm starting to see in this series the reason the Nuggets just won 2 straight. They're doing the thing where you take Rudy Gobert up out of the paint, you don't let him roam.
He becomes
and Aaron Gordon comes for 15 back cuts a game and gets easy dunks at the rim.
Right.
And when you do that to Rudy Gobert, he really, he's a decent rim protector, but he can't move his feet that well, man.
Oh, man. No.
He's an ultimate negative in that space. And I wonder, if the Timberwolves want to make an adjustment, maybe take Rudy off the floor and throw in Naz Reid or something.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Try to just get somebody fleeter of foot in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, freaking credit to them because, yes, Pacers battled back from 0-2 as well, but the way the Wolves were playing,
I thought it was over. I thought it was over.
I was trying to use common sense, guys. Rudy Gobert's coming back. Reggie Jackson has a turned ankle, and they're down 0-2 headed to Minnesota.
I thought it was over.
common sense told me to say it was over with, and now I have to eat crow this Monday. Like I went on my show like I was an idiot last Friday, wasn't I, guys?
Yes.
It's nuts.
I mean, it is wild to me. Number one, Ant Edwards is still that guy. Like he's the only he right now.
What do you have? 44.
Yeah, dude. He's just
The rest of his team didn't pull him through last night.
They didn't pull him through, and they are in. If you've looked at their contracts, they are in tax bracket hell in the next couple of years. This is it for they're going to have to figure out a way they're going to have to dump a bunch of money to not be just so overtaxed because of those tax aprons, because I think Cats owed $60 million next year. And it's like, what do you do, right?
Yeah.
This is their year. And now look at it, man. Denver is they're a machine, bro. They're a machine.
They don't blink, dude. Michael Malone, shout out.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
At 60 million, just like that just hits different when you
Insane.
say it out. When you say it out loud like that,
When you hear
it
it,
just I don't know, man. He's a great player, but good God, these contracts are nuts.
Speaking
Kenny.
of contracts, what
It's not. It's,
segue.
at least it's better than the contract that the
What
Suns
a
have to deal with
segue.
Brad Beal.
Our boy Jared Goff, y'all's favorite team, the Detroit Lions, the best front office in the entire NFL, has now signed Jared Goff to a 4-year, $212 million contract extension that includes $170 million guaranteed. Man, he's the highest paid player in the franchise's history. Annual salary of $53 million a year. Yeesh. Is it worth? Okay. Is he that good? Because I remember Sean McVay didn't want him. Sean McVay said they couldn't win with him.
this
Now,
I want to be honest. This is one of the more intriguing developments that I can recall over the last several years, because you don't see this. You can see revitalization at other positions, but it just so rarely happens at the quarterback position. And it hasn't just been this, a one up, one down for Jared Goff. It has been a roller coaster ride for him throughout his career. I mean, the way that he came into the league didn't look good. Got Sean McVay, and then you're like, okay, we can see why they spent the draft capital they did on him.
right.
Takes the team to the Super Bowl, and I know people want to say Sean McVay, but you gotta have the guy to do it, even if he's just a glorified point guard. Like, you have to have the guy to do it. He was able to get the ball to his playmakers. He had a very, very explosive offense. Lost the Super Bowl. Fell out
3
of grace.
points.
Do what?
They had 3 points in that
Yes,
Super Bowl.
10-3 against the Patriots. One of the worst Super Bowls ever.
13-3, I think.
13-3. Still terrible Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then he falls out of graces with Sean McVay and doesn't fit their long-term plans anymore. Sean McVay says, give me a quarterback that I can win it with. To his credit, he did exactly that. But everyone had counted Jared Goff out at that point. It was like, all right, he's kind of going there as a formality. They swapped quarterbacks. They got the picks for Matthew Stafford, and Jared Goff was kind of just an afterthought of that deal. And so it's like, okay, now the Lions might roll with him for a year, bridge guy, and then they draft another guy and bring him in. Jared Goff has been a top 7, 8 quarterback with the Lions over the past couple years. I think it was something like 59 touchdowns to 22 interceptions or something. That's off the top of my head. That might not be right.
He had like that. He had
close to
that,
that.
completion or the most. He had a bunch of passes without an interception at one point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about? A bunch of attempts.
And he's been a huge part of this like coming out party for the Detroit Lions. The way that he's played, the command that he has of the offense, the understanding of the offense, and we talk about guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who also just signed a very large contract. We don't know where Amon-Ra St. Brown is without Jared Goff. Like, Jared Goff has made him extremely good. Sam Laporta, as a rookie, was one of the best rookie tight ends of all time, and you can't just give all the credit to him, and you can't give all the credit to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I know Jared Goff is not like the sexy quarterback that everybody talks about, and he's not the one that's like he's at the top of the list, but dude, what he's done has been extremely impressive, and you can't say that he doesn't deserve this deal, because just based off of raw numbers, production, what they've done under him, and what he's done to elevate the players around him, you might not like it, but He's done it, and he's only 29 years
Well,
old. Feels like
shit.
he's been in the league
Also,
forever.
if you give Kirk Cousins praise, and you give Dak Prescott praise, you need to give Jared Goff probably 2 times the praise.
Agreed.
Because he won a couple of games in the damn playoffs this year, and
Yeah.
like Dak Prescott was he first team All Pro or no? He was second team All Pro. He was All Pro this year though, right?
Yeah, correct.
36 TDs to 9 interceptions with 45-16 yardage wise. Jared Goff was right there, like close to All-Pro numbers. He had more yards, 4,575, but 30 TDs to 12 INTs. He is right on the precipice of those All-Pro numbers. He's a Pro Bowl type guy. I've been so damn impressed with him. And when you talk about isn't it overpay? Yes, because it's always an overpay for the quarterback position.
Right.
He's second overall in per year valuation, $53 million a year. He's only behind Joe Burrow. But I think I'll go the big picture route with this, outside of even just Jared Goff and how good he is. The Lions, I have a hell of a lot of respect for them right now. I really do. They paid Penei Sewell the largest tackle contract in the NFL this offseason. They paid Amon-Ra St. Brown the highest wide receiver contract this offseason. Then you gave the second highest to Jared Goff. That's $444 million for the contracts they doled out after getting to an NFC championship. Like, they see what they can accomplish in Detroit, Michigan, and they're saying to hell with trying to save money, cut corners. We're going to throw every bit of money we have at this thing and get this damn championship. Yeah. And I wish that your Cowboys would take a page out of their damn book and understand what's in front of them. They could have done similar things with Micah Parsons and Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, but they just sat on their freaking hands the entire offseason and did nothing.
Yeah, it's a very similar situation with 2 completely different results. A quarterback that was on an expiring contract, you sign him. One of the top wide receivers in the league, you sign him. For the Cowboys, it's one of the best defensive players in the league. For the Lions, it's one of the best offensive linemen in the league. And that's what they locked up the guy. They're cornerstones. They're culture builders. They're cornerstones, whatever you want to call them. They locked them up. And Jared Goff in his career now has been to 2 conference championship games and a Super Bowl. And you can't take that away from him. I mean, you can say whatever you want, but he did that. And he did it last year. Went to a championship game. And honestly, if it's not for his defense, they play in the Super Bowl. And
right.
Who knows at that point, but he would have been to 2 Super Bowls if he had any defense. And I don't think it's a stretch in the slightest at all if you want to deem the Lions the front runners in the NFC. I know the 49ers are going to be the favorite on paper and betting odds, but I don't think you're wrong to call the Lions the front runners in the NFC by any means.
Hell, I got asked the question today by Connor when I'm on the radio show. He's like, what's the expectation for them? And I go, Super Bowl. That's where they're at. And he's like, do you think they'll get it done? I'm like, it's really hard to get it done. And I think their defense and their secondary is the last thing we're holding out for. But they have the roster. I put them as the second best roster in the NFC. And as we get into the season, they may be better than the 49ers. So let's hold out and watch how this thing works. But I respect any franchise who says to hell with the monetary valuation, like all the values and talking about running backs and off-ball linebackers. We don't want to use draft capital on them because remember 2 years ago they took a running back and an off-ball linebacker in the first round. They said to hell with it. We have football guys. We're going to pay the hell out of them. We're going to go try to win a championship this way. And
I have a question about this. Do you think that the money that they've paid all of these guys so much money? I mean, you remember, past situation with the LA Rams with Jared Goff. They went all in on 1 year, ultimately ended up winning the Super Bowl in 2022. They did it, right? They did their thing. But you saw what happened to the Rams the next 2 seasons. They had to severely cut back on their contracts, on their rosters, on their roster. Is this going to happen to Detroit? Like, is this the same thing going to happen?
A big difference, I think, Christian, you'd say the same thing as me. Rams did it differently because they gave up all of their draft
picks.
Oh, okay. Is that what
they
gave away? Okay.
The Lions
they didn't have
a lot of their own
pick.
draft picks.
Their last first-round pick until this year was Jared Goff.
Yes.
The Rams.
Oh wow!
So that's the big
they didn't have a
difference.
first-round pick from 2016 to 2023.
Even
So
if
they're
it
just
goes-
spending a bunch of money for players that are already on the roster.
Yes.
They're not giving up draft capital to go get these dudes and bring them in.
Correct.
Got you. Okay.
But that's the big thing is like even if it goes badly and Jared Goff goes down into a hole after 2 years and is awful, you can move off of him, and if you have a bad season, you may be able to get another quarterback at the top of the draft. They still have their draft picks, which is why Brad Holmes, who their GM is, they got a couple of years ago, and you start putting them in that conversation, like that real elite GM conversation with Brett Veach and Howie Roseman of the Eagles. Brett Veach is from the Chiefs. Brad Holmes needs to be in that conversation. He's done a hell of a job in a short time.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, fellas, let's wrap it up. We appreciate you guys for joining us this week. If you're watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment. If you're listening, wherever you get your podcast, you can do all the same things there. Also, head over to bluffcitymedia.co. Check out everything on the site from podcasts, articles, videos, everything else you can find there. Once again, thank you guys for jumping in with us this week, and we will see you back here next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.